Hello, this is Christina Simmons with the Say Yes to Holiness podcast, and welcome to our show today. I'm having a great conversation with a young woman who I really think that you guys are going to enjoy getting to know, Sophia Lebano. So, Sophia, welcome to the show, and go ahead and share a little bit about yourself and where you are right now.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christina. I'm happy to be here. Yes, so my name's Sophia. I am 21 years old, officially now. It feels weird to say that. I just turned 21 this year, but I'm a junior at Franciscan University. I'm a business management major. I am a podcaster. I am an entrepreneur. I'm a creative. I'm the oldest of four. Plus my two dogs, so I count them as siblings. So the oldest of six. And I am from Philadelphia, so the city of brotherly love. But I love traveling. I love nature. I love God most of all. And I love just meeting new people like this. This is such a fun opportunity. So thank you again.
Well, I'm so glad that you said yes. And that's a huge part of my own ministry, of course. But you shared about just now, as you're introducing yourself, about how important your faith is to you. Would you mind sharing a little bit of your own faith journey and kind of how it's taken you to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So faith has been a really big part of my life, my entire life. I was raised as a cradle Catholic. My mom is a convert to the faith. She was a Baptist and she converted just before my parents got married, almost 25 years ago. And then my dad, he was an Italian Catholic family, but they, were kind of just Sunday Catholics, didn't really do much more than just the basics. So my parents together decided to take that above and beyond and really instill in us a strong rooted faith, for which I'm really thankful. I went to parochial school, third grade school, and graduated from there. Changed high schools a couple times. I'll just give you the shortened version of that story. But I pretty much went to Catholic school my entire life, except for one semester in high school that I had to go to an online school that was secular. But my mom was still giving me all the faith and everything. So never missed a beat. And then when I got to college, I went to another Catholic college in Pennsylvania, but it didn't ended up working out for me. So I took a semester off, started my podcast, which is a faith-based podcast as well. And then I ended up transferring to Franciscan in my second semester freshman year. So I'm a junior there now, which is incredible. About to go into my second semester of junior year. And just being in college and being at somewhere where the faith is so prominent has been such a cool experience for me. But the faith journey has really kind of carried me through a lot of hard things. I was diagnosed with hearing loss when I was 8 years old. And then I progressively lost it and went deaf about 17, I think. Timeline's always fuzzy, but and then I had 2 back-to-back surgeries for cochlear implants, 2016 and 2018. And again, I would not have been able to get through that without all of the healing prayers of everybody and just knowing that God had a plan no matter what.
Okay, I think we lost Sophia, so I'm going to go ahead and pause here.
So my faith has been really big, especially during the time of my surgeries. There were a lot of, I would say, miracle stories, a lot of people that we encountered to let me know that this was what God had planned for me. Even if it was kind of unfortunate and having hearing loss, growing up with that, it was something that I realized I could use for the greater good in advocacy. And that was a big part too, growing up. I was part of fundraisers for my hospital. We always did charity walks every year for hearing loss awareness. And, we grew our team into the 200s of people that would show up every year.
Wow.
Which was so awesome. And, the community around here just became very hyper aware of people with hearing loss. And that was nothing more than what I wanted. It was people to know that. Because it's kind of like a silent disease, like you really don't see people with hearing loss. I mean, you can't even see that I'm wearing implants right now. But again, it was just something that I fought hard for, and I will continue to fight for. But right now, that's thankfully not having to be an issue. Franciscan has been incredible, more beyond words than can even express, in supporting me and supporting my journey. And I just want my podcast and my blog to be a space for people, with any sort of disability to come and understand that they're accepted and loved, and whatever God gave them is part of a greater plan. But yeah, I mean, now fast forward, now college again has brought me to such a really sturdy place in my faith, and I'm really grateful for that, especially with all the things going on in my family. My dad was diagnosed with cancer, gosh, almost 2 years ago now. But it's been a fight, and we're just grateful that God has given us the time that he has, and we're just going to continue to live, in faith and trust and hope with the plan that he has.
Wow. So we'll definitely be praying for your dad. And his name.
His name is John.
Okay, so be able to pray for John, but especially in the midst of pandemic, we're almost coming on up on 2 years of a world and living through a pandemic, and to have to deal with a medical, situation like that in the midst of all of that must have been very, very challenging.
Oh
And
yeah, it was smack dab of in the middle of COVID when we found out. Crazy story. Thankfully, my mom does a better job of explaining it than I do. She's a writer as well, and she blogs about it on her blog, House of Love and Laughter, and she just explains the whole story. But yes, it was smack dab in the middle of COVID. July 2020 was when he had emergency surgery, because it is brain cancer actually. So it's a very hard disease to live with, but here we are, like I said, almost 2 years later, and he's kicking butt. He's doing awesome, so I'm so thankful for that.
Well, praise God indeed. And so it definitely seems like you have developed through the midst of these challenges that you've had to face in your life, definitely have developed an awareness for God's hand moving. And what has been instrumental for you in your journey, that's helped you be able to do that, to be able to become more aware of where God is working.
Yeah, I think just kind of taking a step back and looking at everything, with the eyes of hope and love, where like you can ask why in a situation, and that's totally okay. But sometimes it's best to not even question why things are happening. Often during my hearing loss when I was growing up, I just kind of accepted it. I was like, this is a cool thing. Like I'm very into technology. That's what my job is now. I'm a business student, so everything excites me. And that way, my friends call me a nerd because like Excel spreadsheets excite me. So like growing up, technology was just something that I enjoyed. And the fact that I got to live every day using technology, to kind of support me was so cool. And so instead of questioning why, I just was able to make the best out of the situation. And then again, starting my podcast because of my hearing loss journey, and it's grown me to where I am today. Like I said, the charity walks and bringing people together. So it's kind of like the title of your podcast. It's just like the fiat of our lives is how can we say yes to whatever God is placing in front of us. It's hard, but it's something that I've learned to embrace over the years, and it's kind of given me really good fruits. So I'm really thankful for that.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's something where so often we forget how important it is to trust, that just that attitude, and then to be rooted in hope.
Mhm.
And you said that eyes of hope and love. And So often we can get, bombarded with so much in our world, and we can become very discouraged. And we always have to remember, of course, discouragement is not of God.
Exactly.
It's always about hope. And so I'm so thankful that you have been given that grace throughout your life, and you're able to witness that, model that for other people. And that's speaks very much about how much our Lord loves you.
Thank
Um, yeah.
you. Of course,
So
I don't come from anywhere except my parents, so it's all them. But yeah,
uh, well, God gives us the parents that we need,
yeah.
and in order to help us become who He created us to be. And so it's absolutely beautiful. I know for me, I had, not a contentious relationship, but it was difficult with my mom for many years. And, until I came to exactly what I just shared, which is God gives us the parents that we need so that we can become who He wants us to be for the world.
Mhm.
And so once I kind of picked up on that, then it was just like, okay, Lord, I don't see how being annoyed about whatever it was, could be helpful. But it did, because it helped me grow in patience. It helped me grow in mercy. It helped me grow in so many virtues that I was lacking, and that then I needed, for what it was that He wanted me to about. You've made mention several times about your work, and it's obvious that you're so passionate about it. So, could you describe a little bit about your work, and also maybe what appeals most to you about the work that you do? Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So in my introduction, I said that I was an entrepreneur. It's something that I've always been fascinated by, is how people can just see a need and fill a need. And in my business classes, that's something that I learned. But I actually started my business prior to being in college, as dedicated as I am. Um, 4 years ago, almost five now, when I was homeschooled, my mom gave me a lesson that I will never forget. And she said, sit down and figure out how to build a website. I was like, okay, I'm up to the challenge. I can be a very competitive person. So I was like having a challenge with myself to see how much I could figure out in building a website. And she always would mention that I would be in computers someday. And I had a very close-minded concept of what that meant. I was like, I don't really want to be behind a desk all day being like a computer science person or an IT or anything. But the concept that she had in mind was very different than me, but she wanted me to figure it out on my own. And I'm very thankful she did. Because a couple of years ago, almost two now, I decided to start my own company, and I created a website design company for Catholic and Christian entrepreneurs. So I work with influencers and speakers, and just lots of people all
Yeah.
over the board, in designing their websites and helping them build their brands, and growing their presence. And it really fills me up, because I get to work with a lot of people, who have their eyes on God, and them serving God helps me serve God.
Mhm.
I know that He gave me the gifts and talents that I have for a reason, and I'm using them to help other people serve Him, whether that's in a conference or in podcast or any sort of setting. It's been such an incredible 2 years of business. I'm really excited to see where I go from here. But yes, I am simultaneously working and building business while going to school. But thankfully, God has given me enough credibility to not have to have a degree to build my business and doing what I'm doing.
Mhm.
Um, yes, but I do consider that my full-time job, because it is. But I am so thankful to do what I do. I mean, during the pandemic and everything, you would be surprised how many people were like, I am going to pursue this passion that
Yes.
I've had for years. And a lot of that included a website. So my business really blew up. Over COVID, which I was so happy about, because I was home, I was an online student. So I was like, I need something to do. So let's just start a business. And, I changed my major through this incredible vocation seminar, which we can talk about. But
Mhm.
it led me to be a business major from theology, full stop, turn, pivot. And it's been so incredible. And I'm so thankful to be in the job that I am in right now.
Awesome. Wonderful. So you kind of alluded to it a little bit with this vocation seminar, and where we found out, when we were talking before, we have a mutual friend, Dr. Joshua Miller,
Yeah.
and I've had the privilege of knowing him for several years, and his work, particularly about unique motivational design. And so I wanted to ask you, kind of, a little bit more about the seminar, but then also how has that impacted your life and how you see yourself at this point? Mhm.
Yeah. So spring 2021, I was invited to join this vocation seminar for online students through Franciscan, and I had no idea what to expect. But my friend is the director of online student life at Franciscan, and she's like, "You should do it." I was like, "Okay." She knows me. My nickname is Trigger Fingers because I will say yes to everything and anything, and then later realize, "Oops, I can't do everything." But I'm so glad I said yes to this. So it was a 14-week program. We would meet every Wednesday for an hour just on Zoom. Dr. Miller was the one who would head the program based on his book, Unrepeatable.
Mhm.
And we read that. And then there was another book, What God Wants. I think that was Father Michael Scanlon's book. And
Mhm.
we would read those and kind of go through and learn what is our motivation, what inspires us to do the things that we do. And a lot of people came to this with the mindset of, and including me, came to the mindset of this like, there's only 4 vocations and it's your state in life,
Uh-huh.
right? So marriage, you can become a
Mhm.
priest, you can be single, anything. But there's so much more to that. And I'm so thankful that I learned that because your vocation is just your everyday call to holiness. Like, how are you living out what God wants you to do? And changing that perspective helped me change my direction in life. Before I started, I was an online student, just started my business, wasn't really sure where I was going. Um, After the seminar, I changed my major. I became a business major. My business changed directions, and I decided to move to campus, which was the biggest and best decision I could have made. And now I get to see Dr. Miller all the time, which is really nice. But learning and writing our fulfillment stories, we choose a couple of different scenarios in our lives where we really were just our happiest and where we felt the most fulfilled. And through that, Dr. Miller helped us analyze and find like that unique motivation that kind of drives us to do what we do. And I found out that my unique motivator was being an achiever. And I'm like, well, that couldn't be more accurate. So it really has helped me kind of figure out what my vocation is in life. I was like, I don't really know what I want to do after college, but as long as I'm being successful, that's okay with me. Um, but again, yeah, that vocation seminar was, oh my gosh, I can't recommend it enough to anybody who has the opportunity. And if you can't, at least just read his book because it was, oh, it's so good. I'm so, so grateful to be a part of that.
Yeah, I came to learn of Dr. Miller's work by reading Unrepeatable. And then I reached out to him and
Mhm.
said, "This is phenomenal. I want to learn more. I want to be trained, so I can do this." And so I went through the certification, so I'm a M Code certified coach. So what he did for you all is what I have the privilege of being able to do with other people, and you know work and walk with them and accompany them, and helping other people be able to discover their deepest self, and I would say what and you alluded to it about the fact of vocation is probably the most misunderstood term,
Mhm.
especially in the Catholic world. In the Catholic space, vocation is only about a state of life. And so when I was writing my book, I had sent the 2 chapters that were specifically about vocation. I sent them to Dr. Miller and I said, "What do you think?" Because I put it together as we have, one vocation which has 3 layers. So
Mhm.
it's that call to holiness, a state of life, and then that personal mission.
Mhm.
And I say, and it's the integration and holistically living out all of those, that's what our purpose in life is. And he was just like, "This is awesome." But it is something that once we are aware what you just expressed about having direction, of having clarity of your purpose and what brings you the greatest joy and satisfaction so that you can live your life. And I know you've had challenges in the midst of you doing your business. I mean, it's not easy running any business, regardless of how much work you might be getting.
Mhm.
But yet in the midst of it, it's obvious that you're finding great joy.
Mhm.
And that's the whole point. That's, so often people will say, well, how can I know what it is I'm supposed to do? Or I'm not sure. And it's just like, figure out what God is asking of you to be. Who does he want you to be? He created you that way. So
Mhm.
when you're able to become what he created you to be, you're going to be happy. Doesn't matter, the specifics work themselves out because he reveals it to us, so.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, at least myself too, I'll be honest, I went into this thinking, I'm going to know exactly what I'm doing with my life after I graduate from this seminar. I know I'm going to be in corporate, or I'm going to be in this or that. And no, it was completely different. But at the same time, it gave me the exact answer that I was looking for in a way that I didn't expect. Like I
Mhm.
said, I changed my major, but changing my major kind of like snowballed into all these other things. And I'm doing so many awesome and cool things with Franciscan and in my business too, but it wouldn't have been possible if I didn't just stop and listen to what God was saying through Dr. Miller. He was using him kind of as a little pawn, I could say, to get
Mhm.
me to where I needed to be to listen to him.
No, absolutely. And what you have, and I know that Dr. Miller has spoken about this because this is something that he always speaks about, is the fact that our discernment, that unveiling of what God's plan is for our lives is continuous. It's not a one and done. It's
Absolutely.
a every single day we have the opportunity for, God to kind of lift up the stage curtain and go, here's today,
Absolutely.
and you're the main player. You've got the main title role. Here you go. And so it is something that when we realize that, it is so freeing because, for me personally, I know that you don't feel this, tension of, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? It's like, hey, today I take care of today. And
Mhm.
then, and then tomorrow. And it doesn't mean that we don't look at the future, but rather we don't have to be anxious or worried about it anymore because
Mhm.
we know it's going to be fine. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Uh, so you made mention before about your podcast, and you'd taken a sabbatical. And so share a little bit about that podcast. You kind of had told us a little bit about it, but go ahead and go into it, why you started it, and then perhaps what you see it being able to do coming in the months ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So my sabbatical has been, it's been taking place since August, with starting a new school semester and everything. I also just needed that time for myself to step back and kind of evaluate where God was putting me. And I
Mhm.
started it in 2019. So it turned 2 years old before I just took a sabbatical.
Mhm.
Um, but it was such an incredible 2 years. And I am really excited to see where it goes from here. Oftentimes I'm kind of just like sitting back and letting God do the work for me. Not saying that I don't, obviously, I'm the one who's talking and doing it, but it's kind of just like, okay, I need direction and God will always provide that direction for me. It's kind of how it got started, to be honest. People always ask me, what was the inspiration? I'm like, I don't know. God just gave it to me one day. It wasn't months in progress. And like I said earlier, my nickname is Trigger Fingers. And so if God gives me something, I'm going to run with it. So I was sitting on the beach in 2019, and it was right before my freshman year of college. And I just kind of got this inspiration one day, like, I should start a podcast. Don't know where that came from, but obviously it was from God. And so I was like, I need to get back. I need to do the research, and I needed to get everything and figure it out. And so by the time vacation was over, my equipment was sitting on the front step of my porch, and I was ready to dive in and figure this out. And I'm very much a self-starter, so this was very easy for me.
Mhm.
Um, and it was a learning process along the way, of figuring out, okay, what am I going to talk about? And I was like, well, there's 3 aspects of my life that I love. faith, hearing loss, and I'll throw in some practical tips along the way. That kind of has snowballed into just lifestyle of living a well-rounded life, of modesty, of fashion, of anything, and really what it means to be a young Catholic woman in the world, where it's really hard to be a young Catholic. But I've had incredible guests, including Dr. Miller. He was a guest on my podcast shortly after we finished our seminar. I've had an ex-Hollywood director who is a Catholic convert. I've had influencers, speakers, nuns, priests, everything. But I'm taking the time right now to kind of brainstorm, but it will be back very, very soon. I'm very excited for where it's going. Yes, so hearing loss, faith, lifestyle, and it's called Here and Now. It's HEAR. It's a little play on words. So credits to my parents for coming up with that one for me.
Well, I'll definitely, make sure to share it in the show notes so people can go and find it, and they can catch up on those almost 100 episodes that are there, in anticipation of you getting going again. And I'm excited about it because, I listened to the podcast you did with Dr. Miller, and I was just like, yes, this is exactly, this is what we're supposed to be doing is what I found. And it was, for me, it was a complete kind of discovery for me of how much I enjoy podcasting, how much I enjoy being able to have conversations with people like yourself, but then also in when I do kind of my standalone ones and where I'm speaking and sharing is something of where, just kind of that whole idea of, hey, we're sitting around, the fire kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we're sharing, about how is it that we can be more intentional about, especially living a holistic and integrated life. And how can we do that so that we can become, I always talk to people about, to become the living, breathing, wonder working saints that God created us to be. And it's not just for heaven, it's for here and now. And so, it's all his grace. But he can snap his fingers and we could be saints, but he tends not to work that way. Shucks for us, so that being said, what do you think has helped you the most on your own journey towards holiness?
Wow. Great question. I guess there's so many things I could say for that, but I think is this a cheesy answer if I say that life itself has led me to holiness? All of the ups and downs, I saw this really incredible video the other day, and it was definitely not intended to be a Catholic video, but I will always make something Catholic if it doesn't need to be. But it was this video of two marbles, and one marble was on a straight track and the other one was on a bumpy track. And they set them out at the same time. And the one that reached the end fastest was not the one that was on the straight line. It was the one that was on the bumpy track. And that one, not only did it go, it came back before the other one even reached the end. And I was like, wow, okay. So all of the ups and downs of life are always going to get us somewhere faster than being on a path that doesn't have potholes or anything like that. So I was thinking, even through hearing loss, even through my dad's brain cancer journey, even through anything that I've had to go through and anybody has to go through, it's all leading you to your greater purpose anyway. Two of the greatest and most life-changing Bible verses that I live my life by are, number one, Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, plans to give you hope and a future. And the second one is Esther 4:14. Perhaps this is the moment for which you have been created. So living every moment as if God is giving you something as a mission and a plan to do, will always lead you to holiness faster than just smooth sliding through life.
Oh, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you for that wisdom. Seriously, if I could take that and I could put it as, a quote, actually, I would encourage you to do that. Go and put it on social media. But living every moment will bring you to holiness. It's so true. So very true. I wanted to ask this one more thing, which is, what have you found to be the most challenging or rewarding part of your journey as an entrepreneur so far?
Oh goodness. again, this is not a very typical
You can go either way.
Okay, so I think the hardest part of being an entrepreneur is having to say no to something.
Yep.
Like I said, I'm very much an achiever. I'm very much a self-starter. I would rather take all of the things in and figure out how I can make them fit into my life rather than saying no. But I've also learned that I have to, because I will stress myself out if I don't. But I also don't get stressed very easily because I see things as enjoyable. I see tasks as like I'm ready to tackle them. This upcoming semester, I'm taking 6 classes and I'm working 2 jobs. So I have my company, and then I got offered a position within Franciscan to work as well. So I'm ready to take on what I can. And I'm also one of the co-leads of the Franciscan campus news station. So I just love to be involved in everything that is an entrepreneur is having to say no. The best part about being an entrepreneur is having to meet all the people that I do. I've been so blessed to work with so many incredible people, and just watching them grow their business, of course, has helped me. I would say, if you're saying on the surface, that has really helped me grow my business, but for them growing and seeing them serve God has been so fulfilling and life-giving for me.
Oh, wonderful. Well, that's awesome. So I like to kind of finish off time with people just with a little bit of fun, kind of
Yeah.
getting to know you questions. So here's a question for you. If somebody, if a movie about your life was being done, who's the actress that you would want to play you?
I love this question because I actually have thought about this before.
Oh, look at you.
Yes. To be fair, I did start writing a novel, a young adult fiction novel, a couple years ago, and I kind of put that aside, but I really want to get back to it. And these are not Catholic or Christian actors. Don't come for me, but if I had to choose, I think that if I need a guy role, I think Noah Centineo. He is a young star. He was in not the Kissing Booth. He was in oh my gosh, To All the Boys. And if I were to pick a girl, this is always a hard question.
Who's gonna play you?
I don't know.
Oh.
I thought about the other role, but I haven't thought about my role.
Okay.
I think maybe young Jennifer Garner, or Jennifer Aniston, either one of those two.
Okay. Well, I can see the Jennifer Aniston, because you said that your favorite TV show was Friends.
It is, yes. My favorite TV show is Friends. I think, I might go with Jennifer Aniston as a younger addition, obviously, like her early 90s roles on Friends. But I don't know. What do you think? Any suggestions?
No, I think Jennifer Aniston would spot on. So especially after seeing her work in recent years, so The Morning Show, absolutely phenomenal. So a very worthy actor for your role, that's for sure. So if you were stranded on a desert island, what 3 things would you want to have with you?
This is also another great question, because fun fact, this has actually happened to our family. So this is how our devotion to Stella Maris came out. Was 2 years ago, right after my high school graduation. We were in Marco Island, Florida, and we got caught on a rip current, and half of my family was stranded in sea, and the other half of us were stranded on the island. Thankfully, we had a phone, so that I would say number 1, phone, because we could call the Coast Guard and got them to come and rescue us, because it was quite scary. Number 2, probably Bible, because I could get through that and read, and it would occupy my time, and I could still read it many times over, and it would still, it would never change. It was great. Number 3, some sort of self-producing food, probably chicken or something that could be used over and over again, so we would never run out. My other favorite TV show is Survival. So I've watched that over and over, trying to figure out what I would actually do if I was stranded on desert island.
So very practical.
Yes.
And that's great. So one last piece of opportunity advice that you would share with your younger self, what would it be?
I think maybe wishing to grow up faster, to stop thinking about that. I'm even right now, I'm still thinking about that. Like, what's life going to be like after I graduate? And, what's it going to be like when I get married and all of this stuff. But I
Mhm.
think if I were to stop wishing, I was going to grow up so fast that I might have enjoyed life. But I also know that having a disability and being presented in the circumstances that I was, it kind of forced me to mature faster than I needed to.
Mhm.
So I am thankful for that. But at the same time, I wish I was just a kid and just kind of lived life and ponies and unicorns and all that stuff. And I'll figure out what it means to be a business owner later on in my life. But
Mhm. Beautiful advice for everyone, which is live the present moment.
exactly.
Um, you know, be fully present in this present moment, and tomorrow takes care of itself. Um,
Mhm.
and so, oh, it has been such a joy, Sophia, to have you on the show today. And I thank you so much for your time and for all that you are doing, for your witness of being able to, as you have dealt with the different challenges and you continue to do so, and we'll definitely be praying for your dad as he continues in his battle against brain cancer. But everybody out there, I definitely will be putting in your about your podcast, and then also where might they be able to find more information about you? Mhm.
Yeah. Couple places. My website is just sophialebano.com. Or if you want to learn about my business, there is a tab on there, or you can just visit sophialebanocreative.com. And then on Instagram, my favorite place to hang out and connect with people is just at Sophia Lebano. And my podcast and creative are also linked on there as well.
Wonderful. Well, awesome. Well, I'll tell you this, I might be reaching out for a little bit of work, because I always can upgrade all of that because I enjoy doing all the content. I enjoy doing the writing. And so I like the writing, the speaking, and, and the podcasting part. But yeah, presenting it all perfectly, wrapping it up beautifully in a bow, like the work that you have as modeled different projects that you've done before. That's not my forte. So, but definitely, again, thank you so much for your time, and for everyone out there, you continue to do whatever it takes so that together we can tell the master of death, not today. Have a blessed day, everybody.